Look in the mirror. Go ahead. Look at the bottom of your face. See that bony part that juts out. That's your chin. You've had it your whole life. You probably don't think about it much. But it's one of the weirdest, most mysterious features of your body because you are the only animal on Earth that has one. Think about it. Your dog doesn't have a chin. Your cat doesn't. A horse doesn't. Go to the zoo. Look at a lion, a bear, a gorilla. None of them have a chin. Their lower jaw just slopes back from their teeth. It doesn't stick out. Even our closest living relatives, chimpanzees and bonobos, lack a chin. Their jaw recedes. And it gets stranger. If we look at our own ancestors, the other hominins who walked the earth before us, they didn't have chins either. Neanderthals, our famous cousins, no chin. Their jaw was massive, but it sloped backward. Homo erectus, the globe-trotting toolmaker, no chin. The ancient Australopithecines like Lucy, definitely no chin. The chin is a uniquely Homo sapiens feature. It is one of the defining anatomical traits of our species. It's as human as our big brains and our ability to walk on two legs. And for the life of them, scientists have struggled to figure out why. What is the evolutionary purpose of this strange little nub of bone? It's a simple question with a very complicated, and still debated, answer. There isn't one single universally accepted reason. Instead, there are several competing ideas, each with its own evidence and its own problems. Exploring them is like being a detective looking at the clues left behind in our own skeletons. First, we need to be clear about what a chin actually is. It's not just the general area below your mouth. The scientific term for the chin is the mental protuberance. Mental comes from the Latin mentum, meaning chin. A protuberance is just something that sticks out. So it's the bit of bone that protrudes forward from the lower part of your mandible or lower jaw. It creates an inverted T shape at the bottom of the bone. In other animals and our extinct relatives, this area is flat or curves inward. Ours curves outward. So why? Why did we evolve this unique structure? For a long time, the most popular idea had to do with chewing. This is the mechanical stress hypothesis. The logic seems straightforward. The lower jaw is made of two halves that fuse together at the center during infancy. This fusion point, called the mandibular symphysis, is a potential weak spot. The forces of chewing are intense. When you grind your molars together, you create a lot of stress on your jawbone. The theory goes that the chin acts as a buttress, like the support on the side of a medieval cathedral. It strengthens the jaw, preventing it from twisting or breaking under the strain of a tough diet. It makes a certain amount of sense. The chin is in the right place, right at that midline weak point. Early humans ate tough stuff. They didn't have a grocery store. They ate roots, tubers, and uncooked meat. A strong jaw would have been a huge advantage, so a bony reinforcement would seem like a good evolutionary investment. But when scientists started to test this idea, it started to fall apart. First, they used computer models to simulate the stresses on a human jaw during chewing. They found that the chin isn't actually in the best place to counteract the most powerful forces. The biggest stresses are a bit higher up on the jaw, not at the very bottom where the chin is. What's more, the chin itself isn't made of particularly dense, strong bone. It's not the solid block of reinforcement you might expect. In fact, some studies show that a chin might even slightly increase stress in some areas. It just doesn't seem to be a very well-designed buttress. Then there's the problem of timing. This might be the biggest nail in the coffin for the chewing theory. We look at the fossil record. When did chins appear? They show up relatively late in our evolutionary history with modern Homo sapiens. It's exactly when our chewing forces were decreasing. The big change was the control of fire and the invention of better tools. Cooking food makes it softer, it breaks down tough fibers and proteins. A cooked piece of meat is a lot easier to chew than a raw one. A cooked tuber is mushy compared to a raw woody root. With better stone tools, our ancestors could cut meat into smaller pieces and pound plant matter before eating. The result was that our jaws didn't need to be so massive and powerful anymore. Our teeth started getting smaller, our jaw muscles got weaker, our entire chewing apparatus began to shrink. Evolution is efficient, it doesn't waste energy building big heavy structures if they aren't needed. So, we started evolving smaller, more delicate faces. The chin appears right when we needed a reinforced jaw the least. It's like installing a massive steel support beam in a building right after you've removed all the heavy furniture. The timing is completely backward. If the chin was for chewing tough foods, we should see it on our ancestors with the biggest jaws and the toughest diets, like Neanderthals. But we don't. We see it on us, the species that invented soup. So, the chewing hypothesis, while intuitive, just doesn't hold up to the evidence. This led scientists to look for another explanation. If it's not about eating, maybe it's about talking. This is the speech hypothesis. The idea here is that the chin is related to our unique ability for complex spoken language. Human speech is an incredible feat of motor control. Your tongue, lips, and larynx perform a rapid, precise ballet to produce a huge range of sounds. The tongue, in particular, is a powerful and agile group of muscles. It has to move with incredible speed and accuracy. Perhaps, the theory goes, the chin provides extra support for the tongue. It might create more space for the muscles at the base of the tongue, or it might act as an anchor point to resist the stresses created by all that rapid movement. Speech puts a unique kind of strain on the lower jaw, and the chin might have evolved to handle it. The timing for this theory is a bit better. Chins appear on the scene around the same time that many anthropologists believe fully modern, complex language was developing. We see changes in the base of the skull and in the hyoid bone, a small bone in the throat that supports the tongue, that suggests our ancestors were becoming better equipped for speech. So, the emergence of the chin alongside the emergence of language is an interesting correlation. But this theory also has its problems. It's very difficult to prove. There's no clear, direct link between the shape of a chin and the ability to speak. We can't go back and listen to a chinless Neanderthal talk, and today, people with very small, recessive chins can speak perfectly well. There's no known speech impediment caused by having a small chin. Furthermore, biomechanical studies haven't found strong evidence that the chin provides any significant advantage for the tongue muscles. The forces generated by the tongue, while precise, are not nearly as powerful as the forces of chewing. It's not clear that the jaw would need a special bony reinforcement just for talking. It seems like an over-engineered solution for a relatively minor problem, so while the idea of a chin being linked to our most human characteristic language documents is appealing, the evidence is weak. It remains a possibility, but not a very strong one. This brings us to a third and very different kind of explanation: sexual selection. This theory suggests the chin has no practical function at all. It's not for chewing or talking. It's for attracting a mate. It's an ornament, like a peacock's tail or a deer's antlers. In many species, males and females evolve features that signal their fitness, health, or hormonal status to the opposite sex. These traits don't help with survival day. A giant, colorful tail makes a peacock more visible to predators, but they help with reproduction, so they get passed on. Could the chin be our version of a peacock's tail? There's some evidence for this. And human chins are sexually dimorphic, meaning they are different, on average, between males and females. Fat males tend to have taller, squarer chins. Females tend to have smaller, pointier chins. These differences are influenced by hormones like testosterone and estrogen during puberty. A prominent, square jaw in a male is often seen as a sign of masculinity, linked to higher testosterone levels. This could be an honest signal of health and good genes to a potential partner. In our modern world, we certainly pay a lot of attention to chins and jawlines. Think of the strong-jawed hero archetype in movies. People sometimes even get plastic surgery to change the shape of their chin to what they perceive as more attractive. So it's clear that we use the chin as a social and aesthetic signal today. It's not a huge leap to imagine that our ancestors did too, but, like the other theories, this one has holes. The biggest problem is that it's almost impossible to test. We can't know what our ancestors 200,000 years ago found attractive. Aesthetic preferences are shaped by culture and can change over time. Assuming they cared about chins in the same way we do is pure speculation. Also, why a chin? Sexual selection can produce all sorts of bizarre ornaments. Why did humans evolve a bony nub on their jaw and not, say, brightly colored eyebrows or a waddle like a turkey? It seems a bit arbitrary, and while chins are sexually dimorphic, they aren't as dramatically different between the sexes as many other sexually selected traits in the animal kingdom. Both men and women have chins, after all. If it were purely a signal of masculinity, you might expect it to be present only in males. So the sexual selection hypothesis is plausible. It fits with some of the things we know about evolution and human behavior. But it rests on a lot of untestable assumptions. It's a compelling story, but not necessarily a scientific certainty. After running into problems with all these functional explanations, chewing, talking, and attracting, some scientists started to think differently. They asked a radical question: what if the chin has no purpose at all? This leads us to the fourth, and currently most widely accepted, explanation. It's a bit more complex, but it elegantly solves the problems of the other theories. The idea is that the chin is not an adaptation for anything. Instead, it's simply an accidental byproduct of another major evolutionary change, the shrinking of our faces. This is sometimes called the spandrel hypothesis. In architecture, a spandrel is the triangular space between the top of an arch and the ceiling. It wasn't designed on purpose, it's just the leftover space that is automatically created when you put a round arch in a square frame. Later, artists came along and decorated these spandrels with beautiful mosaics. The space was an accident, but it was co-opted for a new purpose. The chin might be an evolutionary spandrel. It wasn't selected for, it just appeared. Here's how it would have worked. Let's go back to our ancestors like Homo heidelbergensis who lived before Neanderthals and us. They had big, projecting faces, their teeth were large, and the tooth row sat far forward. They had massive, powerful jaws to chew a tough, unprocessed diet. Their lower jaw was robust, but it sloped back underneath their teeth. No chin. Then, two things happened. We started cooking our food and we developed more sophisticated brains. As we discussed, cooking and tool use meant we didn't need a giant chewing apparatus anymore. Its natural selection began to favor smaller teeth and smaller jaws. It was more energy efficient. At the same time, our brains were getting bigger. This led to a reorganization of the skull. Our cranium got rounder and taller, and the face tucked in underneath it. Our ancestors had a prognathic face, meaning it jutted out. We have an orthognathic face, meaning it's relatively flat and vertical. Now think of the lower jaw, the mandible, as being made of two main parts. There's the upper part, where the teeth are socketed to the alveolar region, and there's the lower part, the fundamental bone of the jaw itself. As our diet softened, the part of the jaw holding the teeth was under strong evolutionary pressure to get smaller and pull back. And it did. Our dental arch got shorter and moved backward, but the lowermost part of the jaw didn't have the same pressure to shrink in the same way. Its development is controlled by a different set of genetic and mechanical factors. So, as the tooth-bearing part of the jaw retreated backward, the bottom part of the jaw more or less stayed put. Imagine a two-story building. The second story shrinks and pulls back, but the first story doesn't. What happens? The first story now juts out, creating a ledge. That ledge is the chin. The chin isn't a structure that grew outward. It's a structure that was left behind as the rest of the face tucked in and moved backward above it. The unique jutting shape of our chin is a geometric consequence of two different parts of the jaw shrinking at different rates. This explanation is powerful because it solves all the big problems. The timing is perfect. Chins appear exactly as our faces are shrinking. It explains why no other animal has one, because no other animal has undergone this specific kind of facial reduction. And it explains why the chin doesn't seem to be very good at anything. It doesn't need to be. It has no job. It's just there. It's a remnant. This spandrel theory is the leading explanation today among paleoanthropologists. It's the most parsimonious, the simplest explanation that fits all the available data. It doesn't rely on unprovable assumptions about speech or beauty. It's based on the clear, observable trend of facial shrinking that we see in the human fossil record. Of course, evolution is rarely so simple. It's possible that the story of the chin is a combination of these theories. Perhaps the chin first emerged as an accidental byproduct of our shrinking faces. It was a spandrel, an empty architectural space, but once it was there, it could have been co-opted for another purpose. Maybe this new facial feature became a handy signal for sexual selection. Once the chin existed, our ancestors might have started finding it attractive. It became a canvas for displaying hormonal health, a feature that evolution could then subtly sculpt and refine for social signaling. In this scenario, the chin's origin is an accident, but it was later given a job related to mate choice. This combination of ideas is appealing because it reflects the messy, opportunistic way that evolution often works. Traits don't always have a single clean purpose. They can arise for one reason, or for no reason at all, and then be repurposed for something completely different down the line. So, what is the evolutionary purpose of a chin? The most likely answer is that it started with no purpose at all. It's the strange, bony echo of a dramatic shift in our ancestors' lives. It's a monument to the discovery of fire and the power of a simple stone tool. It marks the moment when we outsource the hard work of chewing from our bodies to our culture. Our jaws, freed from the burden of constant, powerful grinding, could shrink. And in that process of shrinking, a new shape was accidentally created. This shape, so useless for chewing, so uncertain in its role for speech, became the defining feature of our species' face. The next time you look in the mirror, look at your chin. It's not just a piece of bone. It's a story. It's the final chapter in the long evolutionary tale of the human face. It tells of a journey from raw to cooked, from brute force to ingenuity. It's a small, quiet reminder that sometimes the most defining things about us are the ones that happen by accident. We are the ape that got a chin, not because we needed it, but because we learned to cook our dinner. And that in its own way is a very human story.